When Etta James entered rehab, she was forced by staff to dress like a baby and wear a diaper that said poo-poo on it. But that isn't the worst thing the legendary singer had to endure. Born on January 25, 1938 in Los Angeles, California, Etta James' early childhood was tumultuous. Her mother, Dorothy Hawkins, was only 14 years old when she had James and was subjected to forced sterilization afterward. James later referred to her as the Mystery Lady, as Hawkins would disappear from James' life for months at a time. James told NPR that she went to therapy for all the negative feelings she developed as a result of being abandoned by her mother, but she also attributed those feelings as the reason she started singing. And so she did the best for me, because if she had tried to take me with her, she was just a child. What would she have done with me? Would I have been singing today? Would I have been anything, you know? While Dorothy Hawkins was gone from Etta James' life, James would stay with foster parents, most notably Lula and Jesse Rogers, called Mama Lou and Sarge by James. While she adored Mama Lou, James repeatedly experienced physical abuse from Sarge. In her autobiography, Rage to Survive, James wrote that when she was around 5 years old, Sarge would sometimes come home drunk and force her to sing for his friends. When James refused, Sarge would beat her with his razor strap. Sleepy, humiliated, mad enough to spit, wearing piss-stained PJs with buttons on the back and feet on the bottom, I'd stand there and sing out some stupid-ass song, hating every second of it. James attributed this experience to be the reason why she detested encores. When Etta James was 12 years old, her foster mother, Mama Lou, died from a stroke. After the funeral, her biological mother, Dorothy Hawkins, came and took her to San Francisco, California, without even letting James say goodbye to her family or pack up her clothes. But Hawkins was again absent from James' life. Instead, James often skipped school to hang out with a local gang known as the Lucky 20s. She attended several different schools, but was repeatedly kicked out. Because James was light-skinned, she was subject to harassment from both white and black children at the school. But she herself bullied and assaulted foreign students at school as well, breaking one girl's arm. James was ultimately sent to a school for delinquent children. During the mid-20th century, record companies frequently exploited black artists by taking songs of theirs and re-recording them with white pop singers without paying them any additional compensation. These covers would whitewash the music of black artists for a white audience, often rewriting the lyrics to remove any hint of innuendos and changing the vocal style. Etta James was infuriated by the practice and referred to these songs as Susie Cream Cheese versions. One of James' songs that was covered in such a way was The Wallflower, Roll With Me Henry. In 1955, Georgia Gibbs recorded a version, renaming it Dance With Me Henry because of the sexual connotations of the word roll. Gibbs' version was incredibly popular and became a #1 hit on the top 10 charts. In her autobiography, James wrote that she was furious. My version went underground and continued to sell, while Georgia's whitewash went through the roof. By the 1960s, Etta James started using heroin. The first time she used it, she overdosed. But her habit became so intense that over the course of 1 week, she and some friends ended up snorting roughly 150 capsules of heroin. James would also frequently suffer from severe withdrawal symptoms if she was unable to get any drugs. In Rage to Survive, she wrote, "If I hit a dry period, I'd get sick. Over the long course of my smack addiction, I was sick 80% of the time. Sick or running the streets looking to cop. If I actually managed to get high the other 20% of the time, I'd be lucky." James ended up prioritizing her heroin habit above all else. Even her singing was just a means to an end. "I found work when I had to. I was essentially working for my habit." James soon built up a reputation for her heroin addiction, leading to comparisons with legendary singer Billie Holiday. Billie Holiday died at age 44 following a life of addiction, but not before warning James not to follow her path.
He said, "Don't let this ever happen to you." And that's what was so strange.
Etta James managed to maintain a semblance of a career in part because of her manager, John Lewis, but he also undermined her sobriety, supplying her with drugs. The two also had intense fights. During one argument, James threatened to fire him. In response, he threatened to send her to prison. She thought he was bluffing, but he wasn't. He planted heroin in her house and tipped off the police. She was arrested and charged with buying and possessing heroin. The case was thrown out due to illegal search and seizure. Somehow, though, James and Lewis made up and continued working together. but he remained a bad influence. After entering rehab and getting sober, James ran into Lewis and relapsed after watching him snort heroin in front of her. Despite Etta James' talent, her drug use affected her career. And it wasn't just her heroin addiction either. Her cocaine use was also spiraling, and she had no singing gigs or recording contracts with which to earn money to supply her drug use. James wrote in her autobiography that during the mid-1960s, "My career was in the toilet. People tried to help, but I was hell-bent on getting high." Her record company was especially annoyed with her behavior because she would often come to the recording studio high or drunk, unable to sing. When James was arrested for buying and possessing heroin in New York, her lawyer reached out to the record company to pay her bail because she didn't have any money to do so herself. But the record company refused, as they thought that spending some time in jail would be a punishment she could learn from while also getting sober in the meantime. When Etta James decided to go to rehab for the first time, her friend and co-founder of Chess Records, Leonard Chess, booked her into Stern's convalescent home in Harvey, Illinois. But by the 5th day, it became clear that withdrawal symptoms weren't the only thing that she had to worry about. James found herself almost completely paralyzed and only able to communicate with her eyes. The doctors diagnosed her with tetanus, which she'd contracted from an infected needle. Her experience became a brutally painful physical ordeal. Her condition was so dire that her doctor tried to slap her to keep her conscious. James almost fell into a coma. She wrote, "My body started snapping and curling and bending over backward, going through all kinds of ungodly contortions." Taken to Michigan Hospital in Chicago, James managed to survive. But although James left the hospital and rehab healthy and sober, she relapsed the day she returned to New York from Illinois when she ran into Lewis. James experienced abuse from various lovers throughout her life, which she wrote was due to fear. The deeper we get into the relationship, the more we realize it's fear that's pushing us, not love. Fear locks us in and holds us prisoner. Sometimes we never escape that prison, sometimes we do. James referred to one of her abusive former lovers as the pimp. He was incredibly physically and emotionally abusive to James, and her manager, John Lewis, was so worried about her that he gave her a gun just in case she was attacked. But despite the gun, the pimp severely beat James on numerous occasions. James ended up pressing charges against him, but it's unclear if he was ever convicted. One of James' songs that references her tragic love life is "I'd Rather Go Blind." She wrote, "I was blind in my love life, and I was blind in my personal ways. Like the song says, I just don't want to be free."
Everything that I sing about is about something that I have experienced. It's never something that I don't know nothing about.
Around 1964 in New York City, James and her friend Esther Phillips started a bad check scheme that involved getting hotels to allow them to write personal checks and then leaving before the checks bounced after already being cashed. When James was discovered with the checkbook and arrested for writing bad checks, she was imprisoned on Rikers Island for a short period of time. Sometime after being released, she traveled to Chicago, Illinois, where she was once again arrested, this time for drug possession as well as writing bad checks. There, she was imprisoned at Cook County Jail for 4 months, which she described in her autobiography as being like a medieval dungeon. These weren't the only instances when James was arrested. According to Bruce Wagner's Roar, she was once arrested while she was singing on stage in Harlem, New York. In 1974, after Etta James was charged with writing bad checks, the judge gave her the option of going to prison or going to rehab at the Tarzana Psychiatric Hospital outside of Los Angeles, California. James was at Tarzana for almost 2 years, but although she knew it was necessary to become sober, she experienced horrific physical and psychological abuse there. In addition to verbal abuse from other patients at the hospital, she was made to clean the toilets and floors with a toothbrush, and the staff degraded her by making her wear a diaper and baby bonnet and eat everything out of a baby bottle. She wrote in her autobiography, "Imagine me walking into the main cafeteria wearing this big white diaper with the words poo-poo scrawled across my ass." James described this time as her emotional rock bottom. As a result, in 1974, during her first weeks at the rehab facility, James recorded her song Feeling Uneasy, which captured the emotions that she was feeling. But after nearly 2 years of sobriety in rehab, James relapsed with vodka during a Christmas Eve party with the other patients. And rather than be forced to cut her hair and have all her patient privileges revoked, James decided to leave Tarzana. James later said that without her troubles, she wouldn't have become the performer she was.
How would I know? How would I be able to sing about the things? How would I be able to feel what I'm singing about?
Despite the hits that Etta James repeatedly recorded, she was frequently overcharged by the record companies and not paid any royalties, causing her to build up a staggering debt that affected James her entire life. Even though she had a close relationship with Leonard Chess, she told the Los Angeles Times in 1995, "I never made any royalties. In fact, I had a debt of about $300,000, and it followed me. It really followed me." James was frequently taken advantage of by record companies, something that they did to many black artists at the time. And when her song, The Wallflower, Roll With Me Henry, was used in the film Back to the Future, she decided to fight back with a lawyer and assert her right to be compensated for the use of her music in the film. Subsequently, MCA Records agreed to a deal, and this was one of the only times that James managed to push back successfully against exploitation by the music industry. James was diagnosed with Alzheimer's in 2009, and at the beginning of 2010, she entered a rehab facility due to an addiction to painkillers that she developed after taking them for a back injury. According to her son, Etta James, the painkillers triggered drug-induced dementia, and her health issues got worse. She was also hospitalized in Los Angeles after being diagnosed with the bacterial infection MRSA. In 2009, after Beyoncé sang her song At Last at the inauguration of President Barack Obama, James made some disparaging remarks about the singer during a performance at Seattle's Paramount Theater, saying, "That woman he had singing for him, singing my song, she's going to get her ass whooped." James also claimed that she couldn't stand Beyoncé, saying, "She has no business up there, singing up there on a big old President Day. Gonna be singing my song that I've been singing forever."
She sings good. I don't think she sings as good as me.
Her son later stated that these comments were partly said as a result of her drug-induced dementia. In 2011, James was diagnosed with leukemia, and on January 20th, 2012, she died from complications from the disease at Riverside Community Hospital in Riverside, California. She was 73.